I made the beast moan. Now the teapots won't look at me? I can show you the world. Shining, shimmering, splendid. I sighed the words like I meant them. Like maybe if I said them dramatically enough, the clouds above my head would part and a flying carpet would appear out of sheer desperation to rescue me from this dump. Tell me, princess, I crooned, laying back on the porch bench like the tragic romantic lead I was born to be. When did you last let your heart decide? I don't know, Aladdin, I muttered to the sky. She probably decided after realizing she lived in a palace full of emotionally unavailable men. Can't relate. I don't even have emotionally available ones. I slammed the book shut and held it to my chest like a 14-year-old girl in a YA adaptation. I just want a man who looks at me like I'm the answer to a riddle he's been trying to solve his whole life. Is that too much to ask? Apparently, yes. Because the universe, and all its cruelty, sent Gaston instead. Didn't know books came with moaning these days, came a voice that sounded like steak sizzling on a hot ego. I groaned internally so hard my spine popped. Hi, Gaston, I said without looking. Hey, sugar, he said, and I could already hear the smirk in his voice. What's with the dramatics? Practicing for your one-man play? Still waiting for Prince Charming to swing in and carry you off into the sunset? I sat up slowly. No. Just imagining a world where I don't have to see you every Tuesday at the town square shooting arrows at squirrels and calling it foreplay. Gaston chuckled like I'd flirted. You're funny. That's what I like about you, Beau. You've got spunk, fire, a real I hate myself but make it sexy vibe. Oh good, I said. Exactly the energy I was going for. He plopped down next to me uninvited, like a man who'd never respected personal space or boundaries or the concept of consent. I don't get you, he said. You could have anything you want. Me, for instance. Tall, handsome, respected by 3 drunk hunters and a goat named Kevin. Wow, I said. Talk about an irresistible offer. I'm just saying, Gaston continued, clearly missing the sarcasm. You could have a real life. No more books. No more weird daydreams about sparkly boys with emotional trauma and wings. I never said anything about wings. Whatever, he waved his hand. You want romance? I got romance. I'll buy you a pig. A big one. Name it after you. We'll settle down. I'll hunt things. You'll bake bread or something gay. I blinked. Bake bread or something gay? He grinned, proud of himself. I stared at him. Then I stood up, looked him dead in the eyes, and said, as if I could ever. The next morning, the wagon creaked like it had arthritis. One wheel wobbled suspiciously, and the tarp on top looked like it had survived 3 minor tornadoes and 1 major raccoon incident. Are you sure this thing won't fall apart halfway to town? I asked, arms crossed, watching my dad load the last of his carved woodwork into the back. He grunted, patting the side of the wagon like it was a loyal old dog. She'll hold, long as no one breathes too hard near. She'll hold, long as no one breathes too hard near the axle. Comforting, I muttered. My dad climbed onto the driver's bench and sat with a sigh. He looked tired, always did, but in that peaceful way, like the kind of man who's been tired his whole life and just decided to make peace with it. You need anything while I'm in the city? He asked, squinting down at me. Fabric, more of those wax sticks you like drawing with? Pastels, I said. And no, I'm fine. He tilted his head. Come on, Beau, there's gotta be something. A treat? I hesitated, then shrugged, trying to play it cool. A rose, I said. Dad blinked. A rose? Yeah, I scuffed my boot against the dirt. Just one. A nice one. If you see it. Doesn't have to be fancy or anything. He smiled. That kind of soft smile that made my throat go tight. Still dreaming, huh? I shrugged again. A little smaller this time. Maybe. He reached down and squeezed my shoulder. I'll find you the prettiest damn rose in the city. Language, I said, grinning. Sorry, he grinned back. The prettiest darn rose, then. Much better. He flicked the reins gently, and the wagon began to rattle forward. I walked alongside for a bit, just to keep him company, until the road turned and the trees started to rise. Be good while I'm gone, he called back. I'm always good, I shouted after him. I'm the emotionally stable one in this town. He laughed, loud and full, and waved once before disappearing behind the bend. And I stood there for a while longer, staring at the empty road. Because even though I knew he'd be back in a few days, I still hated watching people leave. 3 days later. It had been 3 days. 3 days of silence. No wagon rolling back down the dirt path. No Dad, no Rose. Not even the usual letter he scratched out on butcher paper when he was running late. And I knew something was wrong. He never stayed away this long without a word. Not unless something happened. And so, without a real plan, or supplies, or even a very good pair of boots, I grabbed a lantern, shoved some bread in my satchel, and headed into the forest. Because screw waiting. I followed the trade route at first, the same path he always took. But by the second day, the trail forked weirdly. Like, it hadn't been there before. A faint path, half covered in brambles, like it didn't want to be found. Which naturally, I took as a personal invitation. Great idea, Beau, I muttered to myself as I pushed through thorns and tangled trees. Just follow the cursed-looking trail into the murder woods. What could go wrong? It got cold the deeper I went. Unnaturally cold. And quiet. The kind of quiet that made your ears ring. And then, I saw it. A gate. Massive black iron, twisted and rusted with age. And behind it, rising like some haunted, half-forgotten dream, was a castle. Or what was left of one. Towers cracked, windows dark. The whole place looked like it had been swallowed by the woods and then spit back out in a worse mood. I should have turned around. Instead, I pushed the gate open and walked inside. Inside the castle. The inside was worse. The walls groaned. The chandeliers looked like they'd fallen out of a horror story. And the air smelled faintly of ash and rain and something else. Something old. I wandered through empty halls, calling his name. Dad? Hello? Nothing. Then I heard it. A cough. Ragged. Weak. I ran toward the sound, down a narrow stone corridor that dipped underground. And there he was. Behind a set of thick, rusted bars, slumped in the corner, pale, shivering. Dad! I shouted, rushing to the cell. His head snapped up. Beau? Oh my god. I dropped to my knees, grabbing the bars. What happened? Are you hurt? I thought maybe you'd fallen off a cliff or... What is this place? He stumbled toward me, hands trembling as they gripped the bars. You shouldn't have come here, he whispered. Oh god, Beau, you shouldn't have come. I stared at him, confused. I came to find you. You didn't come home. I thought something had happened to you. You have to run, he hissed. Now, before he who? That's when I heard it. A low growl. Deep, rattling, close. My entire spine locked up, and then I felt it. The heat of breath on the back of my neck. I turned. Slowly. And standing behind me, massive, towering, eyes burning gold like fire behind storm clouds, was something that definitely used to be a man. A little while later, let me be clear, I wasn't planning on selling myself to a monster. But when a literal demon animal with horns and fangs corners you and your father in a crumbling castle dungeon, you don't really have time to workshop your decisions. He just growled, "He stole from me. He must pay." And my dad, the absolute idiot, had the nerve to apologize for picking a single rose from a cursed bush. So I did the only thing I could think of. I'll take his place, I said. The beast, or whatever it was, paused. My dad started yelling. No, Beau, absolutely not! Shut up, Dad! I snapped. You're literally dying in a cage right now. Not really your decision. The beast lifted his head. He was huge. Like a football player had a baby with a grizzly bear huge. His fur bristled. His tail flicked. His eyebrows were ridiculous. "Why would you do that?" he asked, voice like gravel in thunderstorms. "I don't know," I said. "Impulse control issues, a desperate need for main character energy, and the fact that he's my dad!" He blinked. "I think I broke him." "Deal," he finally growled. And just like that, I became the world's dumbest human bargaining chip. A day later. Okay, so here's the thing. I expected a dungeon. Chains, rats, maybe a dramatic death monologue. Instead, I got a 4-poster bed draped in velvet, a bathtub the size of a swimming pool, a wardrobe that tried to dress me, and breakfast served by a talking teacup. "What in the LSD is going on?" I muttered as a chandelier literally sparkled at me when I entered the dining hall. The candelabra bowed. "Welcome, young master." I stared. "Do you speak French, or is that just your vibe?" The plates clinked in what I swear was passive-aggressive amusement. Everything was enchanted. The forks danced, the curtains moved on their own, the bread was warm, which made me suspicious. I sat down cautiously and whispered, "This has to be a trap." The chandelier above me, glittering and golden and shaped like it belonged in a wedding palace, swayed slightly. "God, you're ugly," I muttered to it. It dimmed like it was offended. Good. A few days later. So here's what I've learned about my captor. He's not terrifying. He's awkward. He walks like he's afraid of his own feet. He flinches when I talk too loud. And when I caught him in the garden yesterday, he was reading poetry out loud to pigeons. Like full-on whispering Keats to a bunch of confused birds. And he won't look at me. Like, ever. I'll be talking to him and he'll just stare at the wall. Or a lamp. Or the floor. Anything that's not me. Which honestly just makes me talk more. "Let me guess," I said during dinner. "You're cursed, right? And you need a fair maiden to fall in love with you to break the spell." He froze. Like I'd kicked him in the ego. Nailed it. "Well," I said, picking at my potatoes. "Hate to break it to you, beastie, but I'm not exactly maiden material. I have opinions. And a personality." He blinked. "You're not afraid of me?" I laughed. "You quote poetry to birds and you wear a cape inside the house. You're basically a drama major with fur." He stood up, growled something unintelligible, and stormed off. Like full dramatic cape swish and everything. I snorted into my wine. God, he's funny. I don't think he'll be a problem when I finally break out. 3 days later. Look, in my defense, I didn't sneak out. I just very quietly opened 5 heavy doors, climbed out a window, shimmied down a suspiciously crumbly ivy wall, and ran into the woods like a feral gay raccoon. I didn't know where I was going. Just that I was done. Done with weird food, talking furniture, and a walking fur coat with commitment issues. But then, because the universe hates me, I got lost. And then the wolves came. Big. Fast, hungry. I screamed. Like not even a manly scream. Full shriek. Then I tripped. Hit the ground. Thought, well, this is how I die. Mauled by forest dogs in boots I didn't even pick. And then, a roar. The trees shook, and the beast exploded out of the shadows like an angry mountain. He fought them off. Blood everywhere, growling, slashing, until the wolves ran and he collapsed beside me, breathing ragged. "Oh my God," I said, scrambling to his side. "You're bleeding. Why are you bleeding? Stop that!" He tried to stand, swayed. "Idiot," I muttered, hauling his arm over my shoulder. This is why I don't date outdoorsy types. Getting him back to the castle was a whole thing. He kept insisting he was fine. I kept threatening to knock him out with a decorative candlestick. Now he was sprawled out in bed, glaring at me like I'm the inconvenience. "You shouldn't have left," he growled. "Oh, I'm sorry. Is this a prison? Should I have carved a tally on the wall every time you ignored me? He growled again. Stop doing that, I said, digging through the bandages. You're not scary. You're just dramatic. You wear capes indoors. That's normal. It's not. I pressed a cloth to his side and he hissed. Be still, beastie. This is me being nice. He stared at me, chest rising and falling. You shouldn't care. I looked up. Too bad. I do. Something in his eyes shifted. Vulnerable. Sharp. Like he was seeing me for the first time. You're not like I expected, he murmured. I snorted. Yeah. Sorry I'm not a delicate blonde virgin named Buttercup. He cracked the tiniest smile. Just a twitch. I think I like you better. A few days later, we were back to being weird after that. Awkward, snappy, overly polite in that do I like you or do I hate you way. We kept talking though. Late nights in the library, him reading philosophy, me arguing over it, until one night, I came down in a robe, hair wet, and walked in on him shirtless. Like very shirtless. And he froze. We stared at each other like two people caught in the middle of a sentence that had no end. Nice fur, I said like a complete idiot. He blinked. You're not wearing pants. I didn't know this was a formal conversation. He grabbed his cloak and muttered something about going outside to scream at the moon or whatever. And that's when I knew. I was falling stupidly for a man who didn't know how to be one. Because it wasn't about being cursed or being scary. It was about never being understood. And somehow, God help me, I understood him. Even if he didn't believe someone like me could ever break his curse. 2 days later, I never imagined he could be so sweet. Didn't think he had the potential. But then I woke up one morning to a tray outside my door. Tea, warm bread, fresh peaches. There was even honey. The good kind, not the weird fake grocery store stuff. No note, no show, just there. The next day it was a book I'd mentioned once. Once! Then it was chess. Or at least his version of chess. Turns out the guy was a sore loser. Every time I won, he claimed I cheated. Every time I lost, he acted like he just won the Olympic gold in brooding intellectualism. Our banter started there. You're a terrible sport, I told him after our fourth match. You're a distracting opponent. Is that your excuse for losing? He grunted. Which might have meant shut up or kiss me. Still not sure. One night, we sat in the library, fire crackling, me on the floor, him in some unnecessarily dramatic armchair. I asked what he thought love felt like. He went quiet for so long, I thought he'd fallen asleep. Then, I think love feels like being known, and not needing to explain yourself. That line stayed with me, haunted me more than the talking wardrobe. And when I went back to my room that night, something in my chest wouldn't shut up. He brought me to the West Tower on a Tuesday. No reason, no explanation. Just, there's something you should see. So we climbed, and climbed, and climbed. I think my legs died at least twice. Then, we reached the top. And holy hell, stars. Everywhere. It was like standing inside a snow globe made of constellations. There was no roof, just open sky wrapping around the castle like a secret. He didn't say anything for a long time, just stood beside me, cape flapping dramatically in the wind because, of course, he had a cape. Finally, he spoke. You were right, you know. About what? I asked, hugging myself against the cold. I was waiting for someone to come along, to love me, to fix me. I stared at him. That's a lot to dump on a guy who just learned how to use the enchanted teacup without screaming. He smiled, barely. But now I don't want fixing. Not anymore. Then what do you want? His fingers brushed mine, barely. His fingers brushed mine, barely, like he was scared to touch too much. You. And my heart did this stupid, traitorous flutter thing. This was not part of the plan. I wanted a storybook romance. Silk shirts, ballroom dances, a prince who looked like he stepped out of a cologne ad. Not a snarky beast who made my brain hurt and left poetry in the garden and smelled like cinnamon and wood smoke. And yet, I couldn't look away. A week later, the first crack showed up in the hallway. Literally, a fissure, long and jagged, right through the marble. Then the candles stopped lighting themselves. The mirrors went cloudy. The castle sighed in its sleep. And he changed. Colder, more distant. Less tea, fewer chess matches, barely any banter. I tried to ignore it. Told myself maybe he was just PMSing or whatever beasts do when they're stressed. But one night, I caught him by the enchanted rose. It was wilting, fast. Petals falling like time slipping through fingers. He was just staring at it, fists clenched, eyes wild. "What's happening?" I asked. He didn't answer, so I stepped closer. "Hey, talk to me!" He turned, and when he looked at me, something was wrong. "You need to go," he said, voice sharp and hollow. "What?" "I've been selfish, keeping you here. Thinking maybe..." He trailed off. "Thinking what?" I asked. "That this could work. That you could be the one to break it." I laughed. "Well, ouch. You really know how to make a guy feel special." "You don't get it, Beau," his voice cracked. "You're not capable of breaking this curse. You're just..." "Say it." He looked away. "Say it. You're not the one." That did it. I stepped back, heart thudding like I'd just been slapped. Fine. He didn't stop me. Didn't say anything as I packed, as I left. And I told myself I didn't care. That he wasn't the prince I'd been waiting for anyway. But God, why did it hurt like hell? A while later, I didn't even get 10 minutes out of the cursed castle. I was still huffing down the hill, muttering curses and wiping my face like some rejected fairy tale boyfriend, when someone grabbed me. Literally. Rough hands, rope, sack over my head. Very not sexy. I kicked, screamed, bit someone. Then I heard the voice. "Well, well, well. Looks like the damsel in distress is finally available. Gaston. Freaking Gaston." I groaned. "Are you kidding me?" When he yanked the sack off my head, I was in some barn, tied to a post like a dramatic goat. "How did you know about the castle?" I spit it out instantly. "That's not how you thank someone." "And anyways, I had known about the castle, but never dared to go inside," he said, pacing like a bad theater kid. "And then, when I saw that thing you were with... Well, you're welcome, by the way, for saving your life." "That thing has a name!" I snapped. "And a personality. And decent skincare. Unlike you." He scowled. "I should have been the one. The hero. I even brought you flowers once. Yeah, you stole them from Mrs. Bramble's grave. She wasn't using them anymore." I rolled my eyes so hard I think I passed out for a second. This man wasn't here to save me. He was here because he couldn't stand the idea that I might have chosen someone else. Even if that someone else had claws and horns and too many feelings. And then his whole face changed. No more smug grin. Just cold. Angry. Bruised ego fully snapping. "You know what?" he muttered. "I've waited long enough. I gave you chances. I was patient, but clearly you don't know what's good for you." I tensed. "Gaston, no more talking! No more games!" He marched toward me, fists clenched. "We're getting married. Today! Before you run off and screw another monster!" I laughed. Bad idea. He grabbed my arm. Hard. And for the first time in a long while, I was actually scared. "You can either walk out of here," he hissed, "or I can carry you." Either way, you're mine now. And that's when I realized this wasn't some cartoon crush anymore. This was a full-blown nightmare in a waistcoat, and I had no idea how I was getting out. Later that night, I don't know how he found me. Maybe the castle told him, maybe the rose did, or maybe he just knew. All I know is, one minute Gaston was waving around a crumpled tuxedo he probably stole from a scarecrow, yelling, "Put this on, or I swear to God we're getting married in your pajamas!" And the next, the barn doors exploded. Like, actually blew off their hinges. One hit a goat. The goat survived, but is now emotionally traumatized. And standing there, towering, growling, his mane wild and his eyes wilder, was him. The beast. Fangs bared, mane wild, armor cracked, breathing like he'd torn through the forest in a single breath. No enchanted fog, no soft romantic music. Just claws, fangs, and the kind of rage you only feel when someone threatens your favorite person. Gaston squeaked. I might have done the same, because he didn't come as a prince. He came as a storm, and he was beautiful. Not in the storybook way, in the real way, the terrifying way. "Touch him again," he growled, "and I will end you." Gaston froze. For once in his dumb muscled life, he looked scared. Then the beast turned to me. "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I blinked. My throat burned. I didn't know if I was crying or shaking or both. "You came." I always would. The fight was fast, brutal. Beast broke Gaston's sword with his hand, tossed him like a sack of potatoes. And then, the village came running. Torches, screaming. People shouting about monsters and murder and curses. Beast stepped back, shielding me with his body. He didn't snarl, he didn't roar. He just looked tired. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For what?" "For thinking I didn't deserve to be seen." Then he picked me up, right there, in his arms. Heavy, bleeding. Hands trembling like he was afraid to exist in the open. Yet he came to take me to safety. And that's when I realized the spell was never about looking human. It was about being loved as something not so easy to love. And maybe, just maybe, I was cursed too. Until I met him. A few hours later, the ride back to the castle was a blur. My ribs ached. My head was spinning. The beast didn't say a word the entire time. Just kept his arms wrapped around me like I might vanish again if he blinked too long. He carried me, still bleeding from where Gaston had slashed him. I didn't even realize that during the fight Gaston had been able to slash him. The fight was too brutal, too fast. But he stopped as soon as he saw the castle. 'Cause it was dying. The castle was falling apart like it knew we were getting close. The walls groaned. Magic fizzled in the air like a dying firework. And that enchanted rose, down to its last miserable petal. The beast, no. He was trying to shove me toward the gates like some tragic hero on a timer. "You need to go," he rasped, shaking. "I don't want you trapped in this." I stared at him, chest aching. "I'm not leaving you, you overgrown golden retriever. Not now, not ever." "But I'm not," he started. I cut him off, stepping into his space and cupping his cheek. "You're not a beast to me. You're the only man who ever made me feel like I wasn't one either." And then I kissed him. The kind of kiss that's not neat or perfect. The kind that tastes like goodbye until it doesn't anymore. Because suddenly, light. A fierce warm pulse of magic exploded around us, like the castle itself was gasping. The floor shimmered, the walls steadied, and he started to change. The fur faded, the claws retreated, the growling stopped. In the space of a single breath, the beast unraveled like a fog in sunlight. And standing there was a man. Tall, sharp-jawed, still awkward, still soft-eyed. Still him. He looked down at his hands, dazed. "Did it work?" I grinned up at him, heart in my throat. Depends. Are you still in love with me? He blinked, then nodded. Then yeah, I said. I think it worked. He leaned in like he was still not sure he was allowed to, so I grabbed his collar and kissed him again. Harder, truer. Like I want to kiss every year he spent alone out of him. When we finally broke apart, I smirked, breathless. You know, I might have liked you better with horns. His jaw dropped. Beau! Kidding! Mostly. But I just turned back! Yeah, congratulations on the cheekbones. Now shut up and kiss me again. He did. And the castle didn't fall. It bloomed. A few days later, it didn't end in a parade. Just pancakes. And paint splattered on the curtains because someone, me, thought burnt orange would be a bold statement. The teapots finally stopped blushing whenever I kissed him. The chandeliers learned to mind their own business. And the beast? Well, he never turned into a prince. He just stayed... him. Or Adam, as he finally told me his name. I still call him Beastie, always well. Still growly in the mornings, still awkward when I complimented his poems, still too soft when he read to birds like they were his kids. But he built me a library. Wall-to-wall books. Every one a queer love story or an enemies to lovers slow burn with at least 2 shirtless sword fights. I thought you might like it, he said shyly. I tackled him into a pile of throw pillows and told him I'd never leave. Ever. So no. There was no ballroom dance or royal wedding. Just us. Messy, loud, hopelessly gay. And somehow, finally home. A year later, it was quiet now. The castle, once echoing with drama and doom and overly poetic sighing, had settled into something softer. A home. Dad lived with us now. He'd taken over the East Wing, converted into a studio/bakery/chaos hub. The teapots loved him. The wardrobe called him Papa. I didn't ask questions. Every morning, without fail, he'd knock on our door and hand me a rose. Always freshly cut, sometimes crooked, sometimes with a tiny note tucked between the petals. Today's read. He might have been furry, but he's clearly a keeper. Love, Dad. I tucked the rose into the little vase on the nightstand and turned to look at the lump still curled under the covers. Adam didn't even open his eyes. You're awake, I said. No, I'm dead, he muttered into the pillow. You've loved a corpse this whole time. You're dramatic. You married me. Exactly. He cracked one eye open. Your dad still doing the rose thing? Every damn day. Adam rolled onto his back, his wild hair sticking out like a cursed halo. He didn't say anything. He never did when it came to the roses. But I knew what it meant. Because even if he never said it, not in words, I saw it every time he looked at me like I was his whole world. Every time he let me steal the last croissant. Every time he built me another bookshelf. He didn't need to give me a rose. He'd already given me forever. And for the first time in my entire life, that didn't feel like a curse. It felt like love. The end. If you were in Beau's place, would you have fallen for the beast too? Or would you have run the moment he started quoting poetry to birds? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome!